Hi, everyone, and welcome to a quick tour of the Treatment Atlas Survey. If you are a substance use disorder treatment site in the states where Atlas is operating, you should receive a link to your personalized survey via email. It will have specific information in the link so that it's for your site only. And when you open it, you should start on this welcome page here. The welcome page and the ensuing page with instructions are intended to give you a very high-level summary of all the information that you will need and who should be involved in completing the survey. Please feel free to read that at your own time. And if you have any questions, we make sure that our email is linked at the bottom of the page so that you can follow up with us. Please feel free to email us with any questions at any time. The back and next buttons, you'll see always at the bottom of the page. You see here, my cursor is on the next button. When you click on that, it will take you to the next page. The second page has additional information and instruction that may be useful to you as you are completing the survey, such as how to identify required questions. There's a purple asterisk that you'll see next to questions. When surveys are pre-populated, as many of you know, if you've completed the survey previously, we save your responses so that your questions have your answers from the last time you completed. And all you really have to do is go through, make adjustments to those response selections as needed, and submit the survey to us. It should be a much more straightforward process. And then just some additional information on what types of browsers are best used when completing a survey. Note that you can do it on mobile, on your desktop, but it's probably easier to complete on desktop, particularly because there's some questions that have to do with things like licensure, where we'll ask for uploads. The back button has appeared, so you can go back to that first page as needed. And then what you'll see at the bottom is that once we get out of these instruction sections and actually get to the questions, the survey will start to track our progress. So it will show what percentage of the survey you're at and how much remains to be completed so that you have a good sense of how long it might take for you to complete the survey. One thing I'll note is that if you leave the survey, which you might, to take a lunch break or to complete other work, and you close the browser, we save your progress. So make sure that when you fill out a page, you hit that next button at the bottom of the page, because that will make sure that we save your progress and that when you return, when you reopen that personalized survey link, you will be at the page that you were most recently completing. So all that progress will be there. You can go through, complete submitting the survey, and be done with your work. Everything will save. The first page of the survey is really important because it validates that you're completing the survey for the correct substance use disorder treatment location. So you'll see on this first page, we'll say, please confirm this address. We get the list of licensed substance use disorder treatment sites from the state. And so we will have that information populated into your survey. If this specific location has changed, you have the opportunity to go in and make an adjustment to that address so that it reflects your correct location. Facilities move frequently. It is completely normal for you to make an address adjustment here. One thing I'll note is this is not for your administrative location. This is for the actual site where people receive substance use disorder treatment. So this is not where you'll want to enter in any admin locations. We want all of the physical locations for your substance use disorder treatment sites, and you should have an individual survey for all of those physical locations where treatment is administered. Very similar to address, you can adjust your facility name if needed. If you've made a change to branding, that's perfectly fine. All this information will be submitted to us, and then you'll be asked to submit contact information for the person completing the survey. That would be you. And we don't share this information with anyone. It's really just for our own purposes. If we have to follow up with you for clarification, or if we need some additional information for you, we have something we need to check on, that's who we'll be reaching out to do that clarification. We have a set of questions at the beginning that ask you to confirm some things. This is to ensure that your facility is meeting the eligibility criteria for being listed on Treatment Atlas. So, person does offer in-person treatment. So once you answer these questions, the system will process that to make sure that you're in sample. If you're not in sample or you don't meet eligibility for Treatment Atlas, the survey will exit you at the end of the section and let you know that you didn't meet eligibility, and it will give you again our email in case there was a mistake in completing the survey. If you are disqualified and you think that it's in error, please email us, because there's ways by which we can reset the survey to make sure that you can go in and complete it as needed. The other information that we collect in this first section is contact information. Feel free to select as many options as makes sense to you. This is the contact information that we're going to list in the facility profile on Treatment Atlas for your site. So select everything that makes sense for patients to use when reaching out to your program. You could select one, you could select multiple. It really just depends on the site. You'll notice that the purple asterisks have start to appear. These are, again, the way that we indicate required questions. So where you see them, you'll know that you'll have to answer this question. If I were to not provide a response to this question, what will happen is I'll get an error message with some instructions on what to do next. So it will tell me to please answer this question so that I can proceed. This is where you'll start to see information pre-populated. So if you have previously answered the survey or any kind of information, that those previously submitted responses will be pre-populated in questions so that you can use it for completion. The next section that comes up after completing that high-level descriptive information for your site is a table of contents. This is really nice to use when you want to jump between sections. If you have multiple staff people who are supporting and completing the survey, they can open the link and go to the specific section that you need them to complete. It's really an intent to make the survey as navigable as possible. We recommend that you start in the site details, because this helps in getting all your baseline information in place. And then once you complete this, you can jump around to all of the different possible sections that are available in the survey. I want to note that once you pass the table of contents page, the table of contents always persists over in this top left corner. You'll see those three lines. This is how you access your table of contents. Even if it's not open when you are on a page, if you click it, it will populate here. And it will show you up in that top left piece right there, how much of the section you have left to complete for specific categories of the survey. So you'll be able to track progress in the section over here in the table of contents. And then again, at the bottom of the page, you'll be able to see in the progress bar has started to move, since we're in a section of the survey, progress on the survey in overall at the bottom of the page. As you go through and answer, some questions might appear because of the way you're responding to things. So because I selected certain payment methods, I'm getting very specific rows to fill because of my selections. So some questions that you answer on a page impact what questions you see later in the survey. That's called survey logic. And so you may not see all of the questions that are in the survey because they don't apply to you or your treatment site. That's not a problem. That survey logic is embedded to make sure that you're not answering questions that don't apply to you, so that you have a quick and efficient survey submission process. We have several types of questions. That previous one, you could select multiple options. We have single select options too. You'll notice this by the circular selectors. And then on that previous page too, and if you go back, it will ask this question. It will tell you that it's going to temporarily save your work. This is just saying that if you were to answer anything on this page of the survey, that you need to hit that Save and Next button at the bottom of the page to make sure it gets saved. you can go back and it will have all your previous responses saved too. And this is another type of question. It's an entry field so that you can type information in. Some questions are also personalized based upon your facility and what state you're operating in. One example of that is the insurance list set up here. So these should be reflective of the state in which you operate in because of the information that we had for your address in the first section of the survey. So that's another piece that's impacted by previous responses to survey questions and is very specific to states. Make a quick selection. This is a multi-select question, so those will be indicated by please check all that apply. You'll be able to make as many selections as make sense. As you go through the survey, you'll see in that top left corner in the table of contents that it's saving my progress, so that I know how much of a section I've completed and how much of that section remains. And that once I'm done answering questions based upon the care that's delivered by my site, you'll see that progress bar is expanding out now too. You'll jump to the next section and it will show you how much progress you made. I want to point out at the top too, there's this useful links feature. And this is to give you some information that's probably useful for you as you're completing the survey. We have a reference copy of the survey. So if you wanted to look at a PDF version of the survey and see what types of questions are in each section, you're more than welcome to do that through this link here. And we also have an FAQ page, and that's where we answer a lot of the frequently asked questions that we get on the survey on a single web page. So that you're able to go through that and see what types of questions other providers have, and if these align with some of the questions that you've had, so you can get a really quick response. If you have a specific question, or if you feel like the information is not answered in the FAQ, again, please email us because we're more than happy to answer any questions that you have about survey completion. As you go through, you'll see, again, we're tracking progress, we're answering questions about different aspects of care. All those different sections are delineated here, so you'll know what you'll be asked about in each of the sections. For example, if we jump to the MAT section, I want you to answer required questions first. So if you jump to the section on MAT, what you'll notice is that it's asking questions specifically about medication. And so each section gives you a sense or a flavor for what types of information will be requested of you in each of those sections. The MAT section has another type of question, which is this tabled box. When you see this, very similar to the checkbox field, you can check all that apply when answering. So if you offer medications on-site and also off-site, you can make those multiple selections there. There are some questions that, or there's some responses that are single select, where if you select them, you can't select any other responses. That'll be fairly intuitive, but it's something like neither provides on-site nor off-site access. Obviously, if you select this response, it's not going to let you select any of the other ones. If you go through and then you select it here, it's going to remove those other selections because it doesn't make sense for them to be selected when you make that single selection over here far to the right. This is a required question, and one thing I'll note is that you want to make sure that you answer all of the different rows. So if you were to try and proceed with this question and we didn't answer that final row right there, we're going to get an error message, and it's going to say, please answer this question. What it's pointing to is the fact that you have a row that hasn't been answered yet that still requires a response. So we go through, we answer all of these different questions. So we've completed the MAT section, we're on behavioral therapies, and then you might want to go back. You might want to jump back to a section you haven't completed yet. We skipped the personalized evaluation and treatment plan section. As long as you go back to the page where all of those questions are answered, that you don't have an unanswered question like we did for behavioral therapies. So right here, this is a required question. If you go back to the last page where all the questions are answered, you'll be able to navigate to another section. And it will take you to the first page in that section that needs to be answered or is required. And that's the easiest way to hop around with the survey. One thing that we'll point out after going through all of these different components is the end. So in the end, when you complete the survey, if you haven't answered all of the required questions, you're going to have this message at the top. You have not completed all required questions in that survey. This table of contents here will be a good guidepost for where you need to complete additional questions. Those sections that are completed will have that blue check mark. Those sections that are not completed will show a percentage. So all of those sections that have a percentage without the check mark will need your attention and have some required questions that haven't been completed yet. It's looking specifically at those required questions and making sure that you've completed all those required questions prior to submission. So that'll be a useful reference for you as you're going through. The final section of the survey, similar to all other times, is this attestation section. We ask that a member of your senior leadership team look through the responses to the questions. They'll be able to, like you, use the table of contents to do so, to jump across the different sections. And then once they're able to look through the responses that have been included in the survey, they can select this button here, enter in their information, and then once that information is included, you enter all of these fields in. There will be a button that will allow you to process and submit the survey. We don't have this button here because we haven't completed all required questions. So if you don't see that Save and Next button on the attestation page, it's also a clue that there are some required questions that you have left to complete in the survey. Make sure too that all fields in this contact form are completed, including this honorific right at the top. That can be missed by some people sometimes, barely. And then once that's there again, and you've completed and have a check mark next to all these sections, there will be a Save and Next button at the bottom of the page, and you will have the option to go through and submit the survey. When you submit the survey, there will be a thank you screen. It will tell you that you've submitted the survey and we have all of your information. And then you should receive an email within an hour that we've received the submission for that specific site. Once we receive a survey submission, the survey will be sent through our data validation processes. And if we have any questions about responses that you've submitted to us, then we will ask for additional clarification through our data correction process. You'll receive an email with a data correction form, and that will have specific questions asking for clarification on some of your survey responses. If you don't receive any email about that, the next email you will receive is a data live email when your information goes live on Treatment Atlas. So we will let you know once those information go live. If you have any questions about that process or you didn't receive any of those reminders, again, please email us at atlas@shatterproof.org because we'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you.